Bingo! Oh my God, that was like, I was really sweating just then. It's like my camera wouldn't work and my microphone wouldn't connect. And yeah, I had to restart the computer. So, but we're here. Yeah.
Excellent.
And yeah, thank you so much, Sue Ellen, for jumping on the call with me. I'm here with the beautiful Sue Ellen, who is a magician when it comes to videos. And today we want to talk about vulnerability in business. And you just got a perfect example of what it feels like to be vulnerable when things don't work to plan.
Exactly. And that happens constantly in life, in business. I know I've been doing a Facebook Live once and my phone flew through the air while I was live. And like, okay, let's continue on. And I picked it up and everyone was still there. And, you know, I didn't die of embarrassment. But, techie stuff happens.
Absolutely. Techie stuff happens all the time. And we're just proof that you can sort of work with it and through it and just persist and try something else. And in the end, most of the things work out to plan anyway. So really, really excited to be here. So I have some questions for you, Sue Ellen, and I'm sure you have some questions for me as well. Obviously, the reason we're talking about vulnerability is because we're seeing this as being a huge problem in marketing for a lot of women, especially. I don't think men have issues with being vulnerable, although maybe they do. And if you're a man and you're watching, then you're certainly welcome to pop your questions in the comment section and, reach out to us because we love hearing from everyone. But it is a huge problem because it makes us hide. It makes us think that we're not good enough. It results in some kind of like imposter syndrome because we feel like we can't show up being vulnerable. So I want to hear your intake about, how did vulnerability show up in your life and your business, and how have you actually dealt with it, Sue Ellen?
That's a great question, Nika. It's, vulnerability for me, I actually hid it from people. But I've grown up with horses from a very young age, and they will not tolerate if you're not vulnerable. So working with my horse, I had to learn to open my heart and be vulnerable and try different things and fall over and then really connect with my horse. And the more open and vulnerable I was with my horse, the more connection that was there. And it was just an incredible experience. But then when it came to being vulnerable with people, I didn't feel safe being vulnerable with people. And so it's taken me a little bit of a while to be able to do that. And with my videoing business, it's the more vulnerable that I am and the more connected I can to be with someone who's in front of the camera and they're trying to hide who they are, it doesn't work as much. So it's like, all right, I have to be able to lead the way with the vulnerability for other people to feel comfortable and to be able to get really comfortable in front of the camera within like a couple of seconds, 60 seconds at the most. So I had to sort of like shortcut that. It's just been an amazing journey.
And I've seen the transformation of you going into that, taking that journey, because I know when you've disappeared for a while and then you came back, I remember your first video was extremely vulnerable. And it was actually the video that you shared being in that vulnerable state that got you the most comments, the most exposure, the most shares. And people were just blown over that you can be so vulnerable, yet you can have such an impact.
Yeah. And vulnerability is power. So the more vulnerable and open that you are, and people can feel you, It's the same with a connection with the horse. They can feel you, and they know when you're being truthful and when you're not being truthful. And, you know, I've created my whole business around vulnerability. None of these masks. It's like, show yourself, show your personality, and shine brightly, you know, as you've been doing, you know, in your business and your travels. And, you know, and I want to know, you know, how we were speaking before about the shadow part of vulnerability and how you didn't really feel comfortable about being vulnerable, which is the opposite to me. So how did you step into your vulnerability when you didn't even want to go there?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. It's, you know, being vulnerable has been always my biggest shadow, but I didn't actually recognize it or give myself permission to recognize it until a few years ago when I did the Art of Feminine Presence with Rachel Jane Grover. And it shown me that the being in my feminine is actually making me very vulnerable, because all my life I've been inserted in a male-dominated area, being with men in the kitchen as a professional chef when I was chefing. And so I had to sort of be my manly self to sort of get along with the blokes and to prove myself in a very high competitive industry like chefing. And it's also very stressful. So I automatically stepped into that masculine and shared all my feminine, or most of my feminine. At least that's what I felt like. And so I was kind of like trapped in that masculine shell. And I felt very self-conscious and very vulnerable about showing people my feminine side, because I associated femininity with being weak. Okay. For me, weak meant is a negative. It was a negative, right? So the association with weakness stopped me from being vulnerable for a long time, until I actually realized that is the furthest from the truth. It is when I'm in my most vulnerable, like yourselves, and sharing from that stage is when I reach my audience on a very deep level, whether that is, you know, writing emails, sharing social media updates, talking to people on the phone. It doesn't really matter, but it is something that I've noticed a lot of women are doing. You know, they're hiding their vulnerability because they think they're being judged. And I think I'm very judgmental as a person. So I felt that if I'm being vulnerable, hey, Bex on there. Hi, darling. It's, you know, it's a negative. It's a weakness. And I don't want to show myself being weak, until I realized it's all just baloney. Yeah, it's actually, it's rubbish. It's so much better to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I see it in your writing and in your copy. And it's just this real sort of storytelling writing has really started to emerge with you online. And, you know, because you're a high-end copy writer as well as like marketing strategist. So, you know, you've been trained in the normal style of marketing, but it's just so refreshing to see that your writing style comes from the heart, and it really has this beautiful flow to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for seeing and for witnessing that, because I've always been an empath. And I think one of the other problems why I didn't show my vulnerable side is when I was littler, smaller, I sometimes got paid out for being emphatic and for being so emotional. And again, I associated being emphatic and emotional and crying easily and quickly because I'm so, so emphatic with what's going on around me. I associated that with being a negative. And I hid that part of me inside me for a long, long time. So it feels so empowering and amazing to be able to share my truth and who I am, my personality, with all my faults, with my quirks, with the good side and the bad side, and share that with my audience and my community, and still be loved by the people who really matter, right? Because in the end, as a business owner, who really matters to you is your ideal client. Yeah, so everybody else doesn't really matter, because they have never any intentions from buying from you in the first place. So why concern ourselves with people who don't agree with us, who don't like us, who will never have any intention of doing business with us? Yeah, we're here to serve our ideal clients and actually help them, shine their light and discover their truth and be true to their personality. So with the vulnerable side of, I know one of the biggest things of being vulnerable is on camera, right? Like, we're on camera now and we're just having a conversation. But when you do a business video and you want to show up and actually share tips about your business, and you being the master of, videoing and being vulnerable online with your interviewer process, have you got any tips that you can share right now with people who are watching this and feel vulnerable about being on camera, what they can do to help them overcome that fear?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I get asked this question quite a lot, because, you've got this device here, and you've got this black lens, and, it can be really daunting. So one of the first things that I suggest is that, this camera lens here, whether it's on, the front or the back, this is the portal to someone's heart. This is the portal to someone's, this is a connection portal. It's not just an innate object. It's like we're having a conversation here now, and I'm essentially seeing you on camera, but there is a little dot where the lens is, and that really is the portal to another person's heart. And if you can
it's right here.
that person can feel you. And I know sometimes when you start, you're just like, oh, no one's there, and you're not getting the feedback. But they're there, and they're listening to you, and you're watching you. So if you can focus on, this is one tip that I share a lot, is focus on that one person, that ideal client, that put yourself in their shoes, walk into their room before you even press record, walk into their situation. They've never met you before. Their life is a mess. They're crying on the floor. They are in the worst situation, and you walk in and you're like, I know I can help this person. And when you get goosebumps and you feel like a sort of a tear come up because you are so in the moment with them, that's when you hit record, because you're not going to be thinking from, oh, like, do I look good or whatever on camera. It's not about you. It's about the message that you want to share, because people don't remember what it is that you say. They remember how it made you feel, how it made them feel. Absolutely. And so it's connect first, and then trust that the words will come. It's all about, it's when you're in the flow, the right words come. You don't have to be thinking of what you're going to say to your friend. The words just come. And if the words don't come and there's a bit of silence, don't worry about silence. Just sit in it and let the words come. And really, the number one thing is with vulnerability is to trust yourself and back yourself.
Yeah, and I love this. Love this.
And it's so important. And it's what the whole core of my business is. It's the starting point to anything. It's like with Monika, the starting point to writing copy, the starting point to write an email. You're not thinking about you've got your end in mind, and you've got, but how do you want the audience to feel? What do you want to give of yourself to that person you're about to speak to? And the beautiful essence and your personality radiates and shines, and it's scrumptious for the audience.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Sue Ellen, because that's what I'm all about. It's about allowing women to tap into their own truth and their own vulnerability, but to actually market their business in alignment with their values. And I've always been big on that, because I recognize that there is a need in the marketplace to actually help women express themselves in a way that they are courageous enough and yet vulnerable enough to do that, to show up with their personality and to lead with their personality, because that's where the magic takes place. That's where you get your followers. That's where you get your ideal clients. That's where everything happens, right? And so have you got, like, I want to sort of end this because we have sort of reached almost a 20-minute mark. So do you have any last minute advice or magic tidbits that you want to share with our audience, that you want to, share from your heart?
Be yourself and build your business around the core of who you are. And show your vulnerability, be your magnificent self, and don't shrink to who you are to fit in with other people. Shine really brightly so that you stand out for you.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. And Bex just said, great reminder to imagine actually speaking to your ideal client when videoing. So that is, that's gold right there. And I just want to thank you for sharing this, Sue Ellen, and for, jumping on the camera with me. And we've actually got amazing news to share with you guys. So we'll be posting about that today, and you get to experience an amazing joint venture that we've been working on behind the scenes. So more on this to come very shortly. And thank you so much. It's been absolutely fantastic connecting with you.
It has. Thanks. And thanks to and Bex and whoever else is on here, and whoever's going to be watching. I hope that the tips and that have been really useful, because you are enough, and just go shine your light. Just
absolutely
need more people to shine their light in this world and just be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys. If you have any questions and you watch this after, pop them in the comments below. We'll be there to check, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Lots of love. Bye, everyone. Bye, Sue Ellen. Bye, darling.